Hey, everybody. I am Stephanie Goss, and this is another episode of the Uncharted Podcast. This week on the podcast, Andy and I are into a letter from the mailbag, and this is one of those episodes where we definitely don't agree, at least not at first glance. Cynic Andy comes out, and Fun Andy might be locked in the basement for this one. It was a lot of fun to record this. Let's get into it.
And now, the Uncharted Podcast.
And we are back. It's me, Dr. Andy Roark, and the one and only Stephanie. I wrote her off for the 10th time today, Goss.
How's it going, Andy Roark?
Man, it's good. It is really, it's good. The year is off and rolling and just lots of opportunity and lots of fun adventures. And yeah, I started playing with an AI scribe at the vet clinic, and I'm never going back. I love it. I'm all about it.
It's so funny to me.
I love it.
It's so funny to me that as long as the Uncharted community, I feel like our community, when COVID hit and everybody started leaning into technology, like our community was all over it. And I feel like we've even got our little vet student intern who has grown up and is actually a veterinarian now. Jason Sumsky started a company for AI and vet med. AI has been a topic of discussion in our community for a long time. And I was shocked that it took you this long to try it at the practice.
Well, and
really get into it.
Yeah. I think a big part of it is, so our practice has not picked it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's a certain part of it.
You're not in the practice every day, which
exactly
makes
right.
a big difference.
Yeah,
too.
yeah. I think I would have, if I was a full-time vet going 5 days a week, I would have picked it up earlier. But, you know, I've been there enough that I'm like, I want to try this out, and I really do. But, oh, man, I think a lot of people have AI fatigue. They're tired of hearing about AI. Mm-hmm. They're like, I'm being told I'm supposed to do all these things with AI. I'm like, look,
sure.
If you're a vet, you should be trying an AI scribe. There's a couple companies out there. There's a bunch of companies out there. Ask around, get a recommendation of the ones that you like, and then sign up for the trials and go and try it. And just don't tell me why it won't work for you. Don't tell me, what the doctors won't do. Like, I don't care. Just get a demo, get a trial, carry the stupid thing with you for a week, and then let's talk and tell me how you feel and tell me what you see and tell me the possibilities that are there. And if you're like, nope, not for me, I would totally be fine with that. For me, I'm never going back. I love having AI scribe. And yes, it has to be corrected. Yes, you have to actually read the medical records that you make. That is a whole lot different than writing them.
You have to also read what you write yourself, and you have to read what a VA writes if you've got a human scribing in the room. So what difference does it make?
No,
it still makes it go faster.
It's so much faster. But yeah, I think people are like, it's so funny how people will look at something and they're like, they will find something and they're like, this thing is disqualified. Well, this is disqualified. Like I can't trust that every word is correct, and what if it uses the wrong drug? It's like, you should read your medical records and especially look at the drugs to make sure that part is right. Like, you should read it. I will tell you, after using it for a couple of days, I was like, I can skim this and pick up any obvious problems, and I definitely know where to look. As far as this is going to be the highest probability of there being a mistake. I definitely know about that. Is it perfect? No. Is it exponentially faster than what you're doing now? Absolutely. If you're someone who's always either running behind or there's always a next case waiting for you, and you're if you are not immediately writing up your charts when you come out of the exam room, the AI scribe is a significant improvement over what you're doing. It just is. Mm-hmm. I will tell you, I don't have the best memory, and I hate when I'm in the room and the client will start talking to me and they'll be like, 6 years ago, his left leg did this. And at the end of the appointment, I can't remember if his left leg or his right leg, and like all of that I know is captured and it will be bullet pointed out. I don't have to worry about any of it. I can process it for what it is and what's useful in the moment and go on. I do a better job. I have better conversations with the pet owners. I enjoy what I'm doing more because I'm not trying to make mental notes. I'm just being fully present in what we're doing. The medical records I produce are vastly better. They are beautiful. They are bullet pointed. The information is there. It's so good. I am more prepared walking into the room because my tech comes out and I can look at the bullet pointed history of bang, 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 bang. And I know this is what the client said. And it doesn't matter if the client rambled for 15 minutes. I've got my 4 bullet points and it's just good to go. So anyway, it also pushes me to do a better presentation with my exam because I know this thing is being recorded. And if I just say it out loud, I don't have to write it down later on.
Right.
And so I'm just going to say it. And the client's like that. And anyway, this is the easiest transition, I think, for AI usage in vet clinics by far. I hope to see massive uptake of AI scribes by vets in the next year. It makes your life better. It makes your records better. It makes life easy for the next vet who takes your record and sees this laid out, bullet pointed, making sense in how it's organized SOAP that I don't get from other vets all the time. There's definitely times I pick up records and I'm like, how in the world was this organized? What was the thought process that brought this presentation?
Or you can't read any of it because they still have paper charts. And you're like, I got nothing. This has nothing to do with today's episode.
No, nothing at all. It's just like
it makes my technology nerd heart happy. And also I'm going to send this episode to my practice because I was just having a conversation with one of the doctors who was like, yeah, I was watching our young new grads were there until 7:30 at night. So, and I was like, oh my God, no, writing up charts. Yes. No, we can fix that. Come on, you guys.
I take it seriously. This is something I'm pretty fired up about. And like, I think that we can make veterinarians and techs, but veterinarians especially, I think we can make their lives better really fast. And I mean better in a marked way of like, I'll get you home an hour early every night. We have an episode of the Uncharted podcast coming out and actually talked to a veterinarian who picked up AI scribes and started using them. And she talked about cutting her appointment times from 30-minute appointments to 22-minute appointments and feeling better about her interactions with clients. And so she lost a vet and did not replace the vet, and her revenue didn't dip down because she was just able to move through. That's how much time she was saving not doing medical records and actually seeing patients. Crazy.
That's crazy. Well, today's episode, totally different.
Totally different.
Totally different rabbit hole. We got an email from an associate DVM, which makes me really happy because a lot of the times we get mailbags from current practice leaders, whether it's practice owner, medical director, practice manager, but today is from an associate vet. And they have been asked to buy into their clinic and they have been looking over everything. They're working with a consultant and the buy-in is a 40%, so minority buy-in, and this becomes important to the story. So they're working on this in the background, and in the meantime, the team has started to kind of struggle with some challenging behavior and some toxicity. Basically, there's 2 pieces at play here. One is that they have a front desk team member who is causing problems with the other team members up front, and this is a situation where the veterinarian and practice owner is married to the practice manager who is not a veterinary person and their wife. And so the practice manager is only working in the practice a small amount. And so the associate doctor is like, I feel like that's contributing to the team problems not getting dealt with because they're not here all the time. And so they said, okay, it's this kind of perfect storm where things were great and now they're having some staff problems. The practice manager isn't there. She's got a lot on her plate. They're transitioning to new software. Like she's like, I believe that they're doing this. They're doing the work and they've got young kids. They're running their own business. So of course they have the ability to flex their schedule. And I'm now questioning, is this worth dealing with? Because it feels like what seemed like it might be a good fit is turning into a hot mess. And also, do I make the leap jumping into a relationship with a married pair because I thought that I would say never to that. And now here I am considering it and I'm going to be a minority owner. And so now all of a sudden I'm panicking, like, can I do this? Can I solve these problems if, the people who currently are in charge are not doing anything to solve the problems? And now we would have 3 people trying to solve the problems together. And one of those people is me. And I was like, oh, this makes my practice manager, as someone who cut their teeth in veterinary medicine working with married partners, this makes me so happy. I can't wait to get into this with Andy.
As someone who owns a business, this makes me have heartburn. This is, oh, You're like so excited about this, and I'm like,
You're like, I have nothing.
This.
Okay.
It's
well,
like,
then
it's basically like, you're like, look at her new boyfriend. And I'm like, he's got a face tattoo and a motorcycle and he's picking his teeth with a switchblade. And I'm like, I'm trying to be excited for her, but that
is a perfect
You're like,
description.
You're like, he's so hot. And I'm like, he's
That's
terrible.
the perfect description of how you and I's minds differ.
100%, yeah. You're like, look at that. And I'm like, that's trouble and not in a fun way. That's why it's like, that's, anyway. Okay.
Well, I can't wait to get into this.
Okay,
then.
well, we'll talk about it.
Get into it. Let's start with Headspace, shall we?
Okay.
Can I go first?
Yeah, please. Yes, please. You go. All right, you go first.
Okay. So
I'm going to make notes so I can respond.
They asked the question like, am I going to have any say ever
No.
against a husband and wife team if I own less than 51%?
No.
And he says flat out no.
Maybe not. I'm being overly cynical. I will dig into this serious, but the answer is no.
My answer is a little bit less, with a little less cynicism. It depends, which is my answer for everything in veterinary medicine.
Yeah.
It depends.
Mm-hmm.
Anything can go. So there is a world where you can have a say. And there are two things for me from a Headspace perspective, because it's really all action steps for me in this. One is part of the it depends is, what have you done to this point? It doesn't matter that you are not an owner yet in the practice. If there are situations that concern you as a leader, and I'm using a leader here because anyone on the team can be a leader. And if you're a doctor, you should be a leader in your team in practice. You're not without power. If you are seeing all of this happen, if you're seeing the team struggling, if you're seeing toxic behavior, if you're seeing the team struggling with the fact that the practice manager is not there, my question to you is, what are you doing about it? Because if you're not doing anything about it as a team member, why would you expect a different outcome as a part owner in the practice, except for you would have some positional power? But as they said, if you are a minority owner, your positional power is fractional. And so the it depends probably leans more on the side of it's not going to change anything than it is. And so for me, I would say sit down and look at what have you done already. And if you haven't started talking to them about your concerns, the answer better be yes, or you should just walk away from it altogether.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm
hit me, because when you start like that, I feel like you're about to go wildly in a different direction.
Yeah. Okay. I think from a Headspace standpoint, my first, I love when we do a podcast and I ask questions like as if someone's going to answer me. But my question is, really, what do you hope to get out of this deal? What are you doing this for? Now, I will tell you, for a lot of people, there's an ego thing and they want to be the practice owner. They want to call themselves an owner. They want to drive past the building and say to their friends, I own that. They want to put it on their business card and say, I am a business owner.
Sure.
That's what they want. And if that's what you want, this is a path to get there. There are people who say, I want a nest egg. Like I want to have something that I could sell at some point and it would help me retire. And I'm go, well,
sure.
Okay. I think there's other nest eggs. But anyway, here's the truth. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and talk about my priors here. So I have a prior here. In that, I have an immediate negative knee-jerk reaction to being a minority owner in a business full stop. I don't like that. To me, I want to own a business because I want to make changes. I want it to be something. And the idea that I have that there's someone else who can shut me down, that I don't like that. And again, there's difference about what you want and what's important to you. To me, and again, I know there's going to be people who do not like I'm going to say this. When I look at a 40% owner, I see 49% owners out there, and I'll be honest, I get kind of mad at the idea. That is the maximum amount they can sink you into the business and still control you.
Veto you.
Like exactly right. You are maximally invested in something that someone else gets to control. at 49%. And to me, like, I understand. I know there's people that do it. I don't like it. I am sorry. I don't like it. And I don't like it for people unless they really know what they're getting into. And I would never be a 49% partner. Personally, I just can't imagine it happening, except maybe if there was a clause that says in 5 years, I have an option to become a 51% owner. And then
right. And that's
different.
That's the thing, right? Is that part of it is because I can understand, especially as, you are someone who owns your own business and works for yourself. I can totally understand that knee-jerk reaction. And I've also, I personal experience and also watching friends who are veterinarians and practice managers, there's a myriad of reasons why it doesn't start at a 50-50 split or you having majority ownership. And we don't know from the mailbag, exactly. Right? So there could absolutely be a reason here why it's up to the 40%. And there could be future changes involved.
Sure.
Who knows?
If that's not in writing, bullshit. Like, I mean, just, again, I don't know this person. I don't know this deal. It is, do not become a 40% owner because someone promised you that would change in the future. If it is not in writing, if they have not written down on this date, you will have this option and it is not signed as a contract, ignore it. It might happen.
Yes.
Do not make a decision based on being told in the future this ownership arrangement will change. Do not do that. And again, you guys know me. I see the best in people. I am an optimist. If you were saying, boy, Andy really means it, look in my eyes. And I'm not going to tell you why, but I'm telling you, don't do it unless it's in writing.
Headspace, the second piece of headspace for me was wrapping your brain around and acknowledging the fact that if you do even just continue to move forward with considering buying this practice, you'll need a therapist and a good lawyer.
I think anytime you're talking about a marriage here, this is how I look at partnerships, right? 100%. You're talking about a marriage. And I know I'm sounding 100%. Like I'm anti-marriage, but you're like, basically, this is a business marriage. If I said to you, Stephanie Goss, I think I love her, and you're like, you should totally marry her. Get a good lawyer and a good therapist and marry that woman. I'm like, there's like red flags all over the place here, Goss.
No, because I would say to anyone going into a
everyone should have a good lawyer.
Everyone should have a good lawyer and a therapist if because the reality is those kind of work partnerships are like a marriage.
Yes.
And every marriage at some point can benefit from a therapist. Every partnership. It doesn't have to be a legal one, but in this case, we're talking about a legal one. If you don't already have an attorney, if you're just relying on the word of a consultant, which is all we know from the mailbag, get an attorney because someone should be looking at this, to your point, because you are not talking about majority ownership.
Yes.
You are talking about minority. And so if you are not working with someone to help you understand exactly what this means for you before you do it, that has to be like, you have to wrap your brain around the fact you're going to have to spend the money. If you truly want to do this, you're going to have to spend the money. And that should be step number one is to get said therapist and get an attorney because you're going to need both of them.
I said my thing about the 40% ownership. And again, that is a prior for me is I'm like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
What I meant what I said in that you need to know if you do a minority ownership deal, you're staking a lot of equity into something that you do not have control of. Like we're in legal territory here. You do not have control. You are dealing with a married couple. And again, I am not anti-married couple or going into a partnership with a married couple. However, no one is going to convince me. And again, I'm speaking in broad generalities because I don't know these people. I will tell you, if this person went into a partnership with me and my wife, I would be honest with them and say, it's going to be a little bit complex because if it was just you and me, we have two people and we work out what we're going to do. If my spouse is involved in this, there is going to be interpersonal relationships up between me and my spouse as we talk about what we're trying to do. And we are very aligned. And there might be times that you and I could reach an agreement, but my wife is not on board. And that is going to create complexities that you and I are then going to have to navigate through, and vice versa, right? With her, she being on board and me going, I'm not on board with this. And so anyway, I'm not saying no. I am saying having a partner, a business partner that you have to work with, that can be challenging and complex in the best of times. Having two partners that have a significant, deep relationship with each other there's just no way it doesn't add a level of complexity. Again, not saying it can't be done, but just putting that forward.
Even if the practice manager as their partner is not actually on the paperwork for the business, they're still a part of the deal because now you're going to have to deal with the relationships in terms of what's happening at home, but you're also going to have to deal with them as an employee of the practice.
Oh yeah.
Right. And then they are an employee of yours if it's a single partnership between you and the vet owner. So there's a lot of complexity to that. And that's why I said, I think, it's an action step as well, but like wrapping your brain around the fact that if you truly want to do this, now is not the time to skimp on expenses like an attorney because you should really understand what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah. The last thing for me too is if you do this deal, you are really tied to this practice itself. Your flexibility as a veterinarian goes way down because it's not like right now, if this toxicity problem continues on, you can pack your bag and that you'll have 10 job offers by the end of the week. Right. But when you own 40% of this place, that is not on the table. You are tied to this. And so to sort of summarize Headspace for me, my real question is, what do you want here? Because you do not have a guarantee of control. You do have an inability to walk away because you are tied to this. You are signing on to a relationship with a married couple that is going to be probably, possibly, maybe not. I don't know. If there's a distinct possibility it's going to be more complicated. And so what are you looking for? Are you looking for a pay bump because you're a 40% owner? This will give you more revenue. I see that, and I'm not going to argue with it. Is it because you want to call yourself an owner? That's not bad. I get it. I totally get it. There's that. You need to weigh the pros against the cons. The fact that the staff, that you seem to have a developing staff problem, and you see how it's being dealt with. One of my mother's favorite sayings is, when someone shows you what they are, believe them the first time. And you see how these problems are being approached right now. And again, I'm not trying to write people off, but you see what majority ownership, because they're already majority, you see how majority ownership handles this problem, and you don't like how they're handling this problem, you wedding yourself to someone who's not handling a problem, I am concerned. And so I will say that. But that's where we are with, for me, that's where I am with Headspace. I have some concerns. I think you need to get honest with yourself about what you hope to happen and what you hope to get out of this. And you need to really look at what this will do for you and the risks that you are taking. Because I see a lot of risk in this specific situation. So I can be done with Headspace. I will talk a little bit about how it might work in the action steps.
Okay, let's take a break then, and then dive into our thoughts on action steps.
All right, so we're coming back for action steps. I'm curious, Stephanie Goss, are you still as optimistic about this as you were when we started recording?
Yes, because learn nothing. It's because I'm not letting you sway me, Andy Roark.
Okay.
Yes, I am. Okay, so where do you start with action steps?
Run away. No, not run away.
Besides the running away.
Run away. No. Okay, look, there's one way or reason that I would consider doing this. Okay. Here it is. I would like to earn more income for myself and my family. So having an ownership stake in a profitable company would, okay, get that. And I would like to have a nest egg that I could sell at some point in the future and use to really fund my retirement. There's definitely a win here for me. There's potential for a lot of headaches along the way. And there's a lot of, places that we slip off the road and go into the swamp. I do see that. If I could magic wand it, what I wish is that this person wrote to us and they said, I've been at this practice a long time. I really love it. I have a good working relationship with the owners. I understand them. I understand their values. I think they're in alignment with mine. They would like me to step up and take more of a leadership role, and I believe that they'll support me. And so I'm thinking about taking this 40% ownership stake with partners that I know and that I've had a good experience with. And I would say, all right, I would still show you all of the things where I go, well, as long as we have clear expectations, I would still show you all that stuff, but at least feel better about it. I'm just worried, I'm just worried. So anyway, I think for me, I would have to start to work it up. Okay. So one of the pieces of advice that one of my mentors used to give me that I really need to hear, that I would give to you, Stephanie Goss, right now is don't
listen to Andy Roark.
First of all, you should listen to Andy Roark, and that's that. But
I roll hard enough of that.
Yes. It's 8 years that has not sunk in. My mentor would say, don't fall in love with the idea. And so I would say action step number 1 for me is you need to stop swooning and get your head on straight. And you need to look at this with clear eyes, not in love with the idea. Look at it in cold calculating terms and say pros and cons, risks and rewards. What am I trying to do? What am I trying to go? Let's turn this into a math problem and let's look at it. So step 1 for me, don't fall in love with the idea. Step 2 for me is you need to run the numbers. If you don't know what you're looking at when you're looking at the books, you need to have somebody that you pay, and this is the best investment you can make starting out. You need to get somebody who will help you look at these numbers. And, there's a lot of hand waving and whatever. You need to understand if this is going to increase your personal income, if this is going to be your nest egg, you want to make sure it's actually healthy and there's going to be something there and that you're actually buying into something that's not wilting and dying on the vine.
Yeah, for sure. And the nice part is, right, that's one of the things that we do know from their email is that they are having somebody, look at things and they're working with somebody, which is good. And I agree with you. My first action step, it ties to both the long-term relationship and potential partnership and the existing situation. And my first step would be, since they're already doing that, they're already asking some of those specific questions of, well, what about, like, why is this valued at this level and why are they doing this? And they said that they asked about, would there be changes to the practice manager only working part-time? Like, what does that mean for the sale and all? So they're doing their due diligence and asking the questions, which is great. So for me, step number 1 starts with sitting down and having a heart-to-heart with the practice owners. Because to your point about the relationship, we don't know about the relationship. They told us that the clinic felt like it was a great fit. That even after they had told themselves they never worked for a husband and wife team, they did it on a relief basis. It was a great fit. The team was amazing. Clients were great. Everything was going well. So they got more involved in the practice, right? So knowing that, assuming that there's some level of relationship, I think that they need to sit down and have a heart-to-heart with the current owners. There's a couple of things that they need to talk out. One is they need to ask some really hard questions in terms of, I'm going to start with the staff. They have to ask some hard questions. And if they can't ask the hard questions just about the team and the fact that the team is struggling and nothing appears to be getting done, if they can't ask those hard questions of both the veterinarian practice owner who's in the building all the time and the practice manager who is not in the building all the time, don't get into business with them. If you can't ask that question before you get into business, you're sure as heck not going to be able to ask it after you get into business. So sit down and have a heart-to-heart and say, hey, look, I've got some concerns. I'm a little worried about the team. When I started here, I had no concerns about the relationship. And now I feel like this is a red flag. And so before we get into specifics that have to do with a partnership, I would like to have what could be a hard conversation about what is currently going on with the team.
Yeah.
If that goes well, then I think the second piece of it for me is a heart-to-heart about the relationship and their partnership and the husband and wife relationship, because the other really hard conversation you have to have, and I would do it before you sign any papers, has to do with the wife's performance as the practice manager. And that's going to be a really hard conversation to have. But if you can't have that conversation, you shouldn't sign the paperwork.
Yep. Spot on. I completely agree with that. You guys might recognize a slightly different tone in this episode from what you usually hear.
Cynic Andy?
This is not Cynic Andy. This is lawyers involved, real contracts, real long-term consequences, Andy. And he's very different, and we don't see him a lot. But buddy, fun, friendly, let's make friends, let's, smooth things over, Andy. That guy's locked up in the basement right now. Like, we're not messing with that guy. Will get you in trouble in these situations. And so if I don't sound like myself, that is why this is not the time to be nice. I mean, it's always the time to be nice. It's not time to be friendly. This is about, you need to look out for yourself and your family. And again, you better be real certain and real clear about what is in writing. And it is not the time to sign papers and then know that we'll work it out later on. This is the time to draw the line. Things for me, you need to talk about the team and what's happening real clearly. And they don't I'm not asking them to fix it today, but where are they? Are they in denial? Do they agree with this? Are they going, we're going to get to it. Talk is cheap, right? That's that. I think the conversation around the practice manager wife and what that means for the practice, I think you got to have it. And if they can't handle that with you now, while they're trying to sell you 40% of their practice, it ain't going to go well for you after they have got you locked in as a minority partner and you're signed on the line. That's not going to happen. And so you need to have that conversation now. The other thing that I would say is I would sit down with them and I would push for some real power that's written down around my ability to manage the staff and my impact on HR. Because the worst thing is you get in there and you're an owner now and you don't have the power to fire toxic people or to make changes. And I mean, I have seen it and people will say, we'll fix that. We'll iron that out. And they're busy and they really like Sheila and she's been here so long and you do not have any power. And so I would really push hard to get it in writing. I will be the medical director. And these will be my jobs, and I will have the power to decide who is terminated. And they'll want to talk about that. And that's fine. We can work something out. But I should have the ability to put staffing changes through over a veto if they want to. And I'm not going to be in there firing people they like. But if you want me to come on, this is a place where I am going to want to have the ability to terminate people. And you guys can terminate people. But I'm not going to get stuck with a staff problem and not be able to do something about it. So anyway, that's the hard conversation part. And I would do that. And then, this is not the time to save money on legal advice. This is the time to get somebody in there who's going to make sure that this is in writing. It is what they say it is.
I think you have to have the heart-to-heart and the hard conversations. And then I think you have to walk away and give yourself some space and don't make immediate decisions, but give yourself some process time and then really think through and decide what it is that you want. And what I mean by that is if you have the hard conversation and you're able to have the hard conversation and you feel like you understand and you decide that you want to move forward, you have to be able to action plan in a way that is going to support what it is that you want. So to your point, if you decide that you want to have the ability to have veto power when it comes to staff, or you want to be the medical director, or you want to, have specific terms about getting to the place where you have equal partnership because that wasn't a part of the discussion so far. Whatever it is that you actually want, your action steps here, you have to figure out how you're going to get there. And part of that, to your point, is it has to involve a good attorney. So, figuring out what it is that you actually want and how you think you're going to get there. And then, get the support that you need and lay out the plan and work the plan. And the plan might be at this point that you walk away. And that is also an acceptable outcome here if that's what you decide that you want. But I think that you have to be able to be willing to have the hard conversations, to get into the specifics and get into the details, because it's like a partnership. It's like a marriage. It is going to involve conflict. And if you can't deal with that conflict and really hard conversations before you tie yourself to them, that's a big red flag.
For me, there's two acceptable outcomes. And so this is how it ends for me. Number one, you walk away. You just look at it and everything, and you go,
say no.
I'm not doing this. This is too big a risk. The math doesn't work, as I always how I like to say it. It didn't work. Doesn't make sense. And walk away. Outcome two that works for me is this: is that you end in a place where you go to them, and you have thought about this, and you are not in love with the idea, and you are prepared, 100% prepared to walk away. And if you cannot get to a place where you're 100% prepared to walk away, I think you've fallen in love with this idea. And I think you need to go back and see step one. You need to be 100% prepared to walk away. And then you need to know what the deal is for you to make this work. And it will sound something like, I will do this deal. There will be, this is what the exit clause will be. And I am going to be written in with with powers in HR, with the ability to terminate employees over a veto like that. Like I can do that. And they're the majority owners. They can always terminate employees over you don't have the ability to stop them. Mm-hmm. I want to make it fair so they don't have the ability to stop you, so that you know that you could do that. Now, let's be honest. If you have business partners and you're trying to fire someone and they don't want you to fire that person and you just do it anyway, that's probably bad. But just to be clear, I would have a list of the things that I need. I would need assurances around the practice manager, or, a clear action plan and in writing what is going to be done and how we're going to measure performance and things like that. And I would say, if you guys agree to these terms, then we'll go forward. And if you don't agree to these terms, then I'm not going to go forward. And if you can really come to that place, then that can be an acceptable path forward. I'm not saying it'll work out, but I would at least say, yep, you knew what you wanted. You knew what you needed to make it happen. You were not making an emotional choice, and you did your due diligence, and now you can move forward. But if you...
See, you did agree with me, Andy. There is a possibility where it could work out.
Sure. There's a possibility I could win the lottery. There's actually not, because it's not a play.
Because you got to play to win.
Now, again, I am taking a contrary view, but I am...
Just to annoy me.
It does not light my heart with fluttering anticipation. I'm like, could it work? Yeah, I mean, it can. I think if you look at the red flags that we talked about and you look at the path it has to go to be great versus the path it
there's a lot. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a lot. There's a lot in the way for sure. I agree with you.
Risk.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah. So, anyway.
I'm just saying it's not impossible.
No, it's not impossible. It's not impossible.
It's just next to impossible.
Be smart. Don't fall in love. Have the hard conversations up front, right? Do not sign anything with the idea that we'll sort this out later on. Don't do it.
Yeah, no, not at all. Not at all.
That's it. That's all.
All right. Well, on that note, Cindy Candy and Stephanie are signing off for the week.
Let's do an episode about staff appreciation now. I need to get back. Gonna let friend Andy out of the basement. That's what I want to do.
All right. Have a great week, everybody.
See you later, everybody.
And that's a wrap on another episode of the Uncharted Podcast. Thanks for joining us and spending your week with us. If you enjoyed this week's episode, head over to wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a review. It's the best way to let us know that you love listening. We'll see you next time.